Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, anything you're celebrating this week, we're going to celebrate with you. I'm about to, this isn't a celebration. This is a little bit of a mourning period for the end of the Ravens season that came right around the time Santa came down the chimney. Dennis Kolatzis joins us here. He, of course, hosts our Thursday afternoon SSV on WNST and driving you home here, as well as sponsoring our WNST tech service with our breaking news. And there's breaking news, Dennis. We're not in the playoffs. That's the only breaking news that matters. And I don't know. There's a little bit of a come down for me when we get eliminated that I don't even talk about much, but it is a little depressing the first 24, 48 hours, you know?
Yeah, it's not just news, Nestor. It's heartbreaking news. What an empty feeling. Here we are days later after that horrible loss of the Steelers, which was horrible on a number of levels. It was numbing, 4 seconds away from possibly advancing and going to Cincinnati for a possible playoff berth. That would have had a home game against the Dolphins, away at Oakland without their quarterback Carr, and then maybe to Foxborough to face the Patriots. So this was a numbing loss on a number of levels. Could also be devastating for the Ravens franchise. It could have been devastating for the Steelers had they fallen short and ran out of time. Our good friend Mike Tomlin would have been barbecued, him and Todd Haley and everyone in our organization. But right now, it is very much the Ravens up against the ropes for a change.
Well, and it came down to seconds and inches and an arm and a tackle and a boost and a want and a will and, all of that. Weddle on Brown with Mosley on the ground and Zach Orr closing. That image is there. And if the Steelers go on and do something, if the Steelers are playing in the Super Bowl in Houston when I get there 5 weeks from now, that play would be the defining moment, right, of this era for the Steelers to get them into the tournament. And to your point, a tournament that, we know the Ravens weren't really, really good. To your point, they might not have needed to be really, really good to have at least made it interesting in the tournament 2-3 weeks from now.
Yeah, there's no question about it, Nestor. And we were right there, but for them not to leave themselves an out, for them to burn the Steelers to burn all their timeouts, I mean, they would have been ridiculed and they would have been calling for the dismissal of Mike Tomlin. But here I'm not with the Ravens, and I saw a lot of people saying, well, is John Harbaugh going to get fired? I don't think that's the case. But you know what? John only has 1 year left on his contract, and I've talked about this, that never mind what Steve Bisciotti thinks, the door swings both ways here in the sense that I don't think that John Harbaugh is going to come back to coach as a lame duck coach for 1 year. I would think he'd want at a minimum, a 2-year extension. He can certainly cite the recent drafts of Ozzie Newsome. He coaches the players. Ozzie gets them. But I can't see John Harbaugh coming back on a 1-year deal.
Well, and it becomes an interesting time if you're Bisciotti to say, well, you haven't made the playoffs 3 out of the last 4 years, right? I mean, there's that, and then there's, well, who's picking the players? Who's picking the ingredients? And what ingredients have I had? If Matt Elam, if Sergio Kindle, if Prashad Perryman, we can go through all of these names during this era, and they've been together. I mean, the one thing I know is Ozzie and Harbaugh work well together. There's a decade here. There's now 2 administrations for Ozzie. Ozzie works well with these coaches, and I don't, I've never had a coach, guys I know, and speaking of guys I know, Rex Ryan getting fired on Tuesday as well as his brother up in Buffalo, so it is that time of the season. But, no one's ever disparaged Ozzie on the way out the door from a coaching standpoint. There's no one that would say, well, I wouldn't want to be the head coach in Baltimore because I'd have to work with Ozzie Newsome. So I think there's, and after 21 years with Ozzie and Eric DeCosta being a part of this for 2 decades, this is a time for Steve Bisciotti to say, is this the group that's going to lead us the next 5 years? And if it's not, and, no one's better at personnel than Steve. It's how he became wealthy, right? To say, well, if I don't really believe John's going to be here in 2020, and I don't believe that Ozzie's going to be here, maybe I need to go in a direction where, this is a good time to make a switch because we didn't make the playoffs, and, we're into a contract. We have a quarterback at least that we can work with here over the next 5 years, because I think Bisciotti probably thinks more in those terms. And John Harbaugh's still a young guy, and a young guy with a ring. And if there's going to be some college job or some other NFL job for him, this would be the time he would be thinking about that too. That could I be happier elsewhere? Would I want to try something else elsewhere? I don't think it's Buffalo, by the way. But, this is to your point, these are all a lot of wealthy, decorated guys. They don't have to stay anywhere they don't want to stay, right?
No.
I mean, they're not doing this to decide whether they're having TV dinners next week or not. They're literally trying to put themselves in a position to be happy and then be successful, right?
Yeah, there's certainly going to be very interesting conversations. I know for a fact the Ravens have never put themselves in this position as an organization when they allowed a coach to reach even this point where he has just 1 year left on his contract. So, yeah, there'll be discussions. I look at Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Mike Tomlin missed the postseason 3 straight years after he won the Super Bowl, and he's still around, and he's still in the playoffs. He's still doing some great things. And I don't know if you saw it, but Terry Bradshaw came after him, and I thought that he had a very good response. He said, I don't know about Terry Bradshaw. I grew up a Dallas Cowboy fan. In fact, Thomas Hollywood Henderson was one of my favorite players. Of course, Henderson was the one that said that Bradshaw was so dumb that if you spelled him the C and the A, he couldn't spell cat. So he kind of got back at him there. But I'm all about stability, but it's going to be interesting. You and I have talked ad nauseum about the empty seats at M&T Bank Stadium the last couple of seasons. Yeah, will Steve Bisciotti want a new energy maybe to energize the fan base?
Well, that's certainly something to think about, right? Because,
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
at the heart of this, it's one thing to lose on the field by an arm. It's one thing to not have Jimmy Smith out there. It's one thing to have busted draft picks, and then this year, a really nice draft class, to work with. But the guy who owns the company's thinking even larger picture than that, which is we're bleeding fans, and I don't know why, and I need to get to the bottom of it. And I certainly can think in that organization where, Steve wasn't a kid born with the silver spoon. He earned it, and to see the stadium get empty is probably more of an issue for him, behind the scenes than how do I fix the football team, which is important, but the football team's not that broken. The football team is trending in the right direction if you go from last year to this year and to see the young players they have. The fan base and the experience and what's going on around the league, that part of it, I don't know that Steve's going to talk a lot about that when he gets together next week or the week after, I feel. Yeah,
no question about it. But even this past draft class, a very strong class overall with Ronnie Stanley, Alex Lewis, Tavon Young, Ken Dixon, Matt Judon. But Bronze Konfusi and Kamali Correa, the number 2 and 3 players in that draft class. Konfusi got hurt, of course, in the offseason, and Correa barely played. Those two guys really have to come on strong and play next year or 2 or 3 in order for this to be a top-notch draft class. And they have to also hit in this year's draft class to maybe help push the Ravens from a talent level over the top.
He is Dennis Kalatzis. He does sports radio here each and every Thursday, driving you home from 3 until 5 on the SSV on WNST. When he's not out at Coons Florida Security Boulevard, and, of course, sponsoring our WNST tech service. And, I don't know that there's any Black Monday text coming out here, and I think they will go to Cincinnati, and they'll play hard and play out the string here this weekend. But, Dennis, for me, the bad taste in my mouth was sitting around on Monday night watching the Cowboys and the Lions and realizing, this is now my fate for the next 4 or 5 weeks before I go to Houston, is to sit around and watch other teams play football. And what a wild weekend, as you pointed out, with the injuries to Mariota, to Lockett, obviously to Derek Carr, and what that represents and what it means. But, boy, this Cowboy-Patriot thing, it feels like they're the 2 best teams, and there's nobody close, and they're going to have to win 2 games at home, both of them. But it feels kind of collision coursey to me.
It does, Nestor, and the ratings will be through the roof. Tom Brady going for his 5th ring, America's team on the other side with the 2 super hot rookies. It'll be an epic matchup, so as a football fan, I would embrace watching that kind of a matchup.
Are you going to root for the Steelers? If there's an AFC championship game and it's Steelers versus Patriots, is it the one time ever we become Steelers fans? Because I really do dislike the Patriots that much that I could talk myself into rooting for the Steelers. I mean, I'm not making. I mean, don't. It's still 2016. I don't have to get to that bridge, but that's how much I dislike the Patriots. Then I'm going to root for the Cowboys if it comes to that. I've already made that decision.
Well, my viewpoint of the Steelers has changed the last decade. I hate them, but I respect them at the same time. And I remember when Brian Billick said, "Look, I'm going to root for them. If it's not us, I'm going to root for them in the playoffs." I've kind of evolved that if it's not us, I like Mike Tomlin. I know that you like Mike Tomlin. I like the organization as a whole, and I'm not going to be a Steelers fan, but I will be rooting for the Steelers to go all the way. If it's not us, no better team to represent the AFC and win the Super Bowl. And even if it's the Steelers against the Cowboys, it's still going to be a classic matchup. The Steelers, of course, have a big-time national fan base. It'll be an epic match, but I will root for the Steelers. No way will you ever catch me rooting for the Patriots.
I was going to say, at least the Steelers don't cheat, but they cheat. They cheat. You know, I mean, I saw Tomlin in the foot. They cheat. They do. I mean, so if we're trying to get on the integrity side here. What's going on out of Coons Ford Security Boulevard? It's it's a weird week, right? I mean, nobody really knows what to do in the middle of the week if they don't have to work. If they do work, the kids are home, the teachers are out. Government. It's a weird week, right?
There's a lot of people off, Nestor. We've had a dynamic weekend in sales. Monday was very good. The sales were through the roof. People talk about New England. We had someone fly down from New England and bought an F-250. Flew down. We picked them up at the airport, put them up at a hotel overnight, drove back to the very next day. So, although we don't like Patriots fans, we'll certainly take their money.
Well, right, of course. And all right. So, any New Year's plans for you? Go watch college football on New Year's Eve, right? I mean, that's
absolutely.
I got to watch big games.
I got to get ready for that. Unfortunately, Nestor, I have to get ready for the 2017 NFL Draft, April 27th through the 29th. I'm starting early because I'll have nothing to do for the next few weeks, as you mentioned.
You going to go up to Philadelphia? I mean, this is a year you could drive up there and be a part of the festivities.
Is it that close?
It is that close.
Really? I didn't know that. I thought it was in Indy.
I haven't.
Got to double check that. Since Philly will make it very appealing for me to go up there.
Hold on, 2017 NFL Draft. I mean, I'm Googling it right now.
I just took it for granted it was in Indianapolis. Usually it's there. It's indoors and.
No. I remember this. Hold
really?
on. It will be held in Philadelphia from April 27th to the 29th. Yes.
It's in Philadelphia. No
It
kidding.
is in Philadelphia.
Okay.
Yes.
You know what? Maybe I'll go watch the Underwear Olympics up close and personal.
Thank God for not the combine. I said the draft.
Oh, the draft. I'm sorry.
No, we're talking two different languages here. I'm out of my mind. The draft is in Phil. Remember Denver wanted the draft?
Yeah. I remember that.
Now, you're going to put it in L.A. once they get the stadium out there. So this is your one chance to go to the draft. Go to Philadelphia.
Gotta go.
All right. Well, I thought you
going to be there. Absolutely.
Indianapolis is the Underwear Olympics, and that's still there, and it's still freezing cold, and it's in February, and Luke and I are going, and.
Well, birds still fly over that city upside down. We'll leave it there. I mean, I want to go to Indy. It's still, talking about never rooting for its franchise. I've talked about it. The Colts. I still have a very bad taste about 1983.
You know what? I'm going to say this to you because we talked about this last week because it is the holidays. I did not get any of your baklava from the Greek holiday. But let me just say this: Mr. Rooney made some really, really delicious sugar cookies for me.
Nice. Well,
up in Pittsburgh.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
I am you talk about liking the Steelers. They have a really good pregame buffet. I can't say much good about the Steelers, but I can say that. And I did get to escape the city unharmed on Christmas night.
Well, half my household was filled with Steelers fans, and the other half Ravens fans. We had a lot of fun up to the last 4
So half of it smelled really good.
Half of it smelled real good, but half of it was real happy, and the other half was really upset at the conclusion of that game the other night.
I really did have. I watched Monday Night Football, and I really did have this sort of melancholy, about like, God, it's over. The season's, they're going to play this meaningless Cincinnati thing on Sunday, and we're going to hope nobody gets hurt. And
let me ask you about this. Why is John playing Joe Flacco? I mean, come on, the guy's still coming back from a knee injury. Why not give Mallet a shot? I understand he wants to finish 9-7, but finish 9-7 with Mallet, not with Flacco.
Whatever they talk about this week, whatever I see on Sunday is what I'll judge, because I can't imagine Marshall Yanda and Terrell Suggs are going to be out there running around.
That's what he's saying. He said Yanda and Suggs are playing. Why would you do that? Why would you even say that's what you're going to do?
Well, I think the league office, I mean, we go through this with the NBA this week where, if you're a family, if you took Christos to a game a day after Christmas in Detroit and you had tickets for a Pistons LeBron game and then LeBron doesn't play,
I'm out. Jordan played 82 games this season. To me, Jordan will always be the gold standard. I expect these guys not to take days off. I expect them to play 82 games, Nestor.
Well, I mean, especially if you're paying for the tickets.
Absolutely.
In visiting City X, which is part of why Joe Flacco would be out there throwing the ball in the first half on Sunday. I guess. I mean, I feel cheated at these preseason games, but at least I know what I'm buying. I'm buying getting ripped off. In a regular season, the league's trying to hold some integrity together, but I mean, in the games that truly mean nothing.
Right.
I was wondering why Dallas was playing as hard as they were on Monday night, right?
I couldn't believe it. I mean, I couldn't believe, and I don't know if you saw it. I forget who the defensive tackle was. Picked up Ezekiel Elliott, just slammed him into the turf. Luckily, Zeke wasn't hurt, but I was thinking, there goes the season.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. And the worst part of this whole Cowboys thing is this Dak Prescott kid and Ezekiel, they seem like kids you want to root for. I don't want to root for the Cowboys.
They're very likable. They really are.
Yeah, it's a damn shame, isn't it? Merry
really
Christmas,
is.
Happy Holidays. We'll see you on Thursday, all right?
You got us. Thanks a lot.
You got it every Thursday. Dennis Kolatzos is here driving you home, the SSV on WNST. And, of course, out of Coons Florida Security Boulevard. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. I'm a very available individual. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live. I'm headed to Nashville for some rock and roll, some old school Zeppelin fun this week. And then I'm going to do what every self-respecting Ravens fan does. I'm going to mope. I'm going to complain and bitch and moan and watch these other games and say, why not us? That's what I'm going to do. Might not do it on the radio full time, but at home, that's what I'm doing. Trust me. My wife and my cat know. I'm Nestor. This is WNST.net, AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.